welcome back to the Singapore Government Deep Dive sessions. For those of you who has just joined, my name is Gillian and I'm the host for today. And our sessions today will feature the agencies within the Singapore government, and they will operate within each tech domain. We are having simultaneous sessions currently, so make sure you have joined the right track. Okay, so we will be sharing the cloud and infrastructure domain first, and followed by census and IoT later at about 1:30. Okay, so if you want to switch over to the other track, you can click on the link or QR code here on the screen. That one will be the data science and AI. Okay, so before we start, I'll be sharing with you some ground rules first, and also just to share with you that this session will be recorded. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to type it into the Q&A panel at the bottom of the screen, and please do not type it into the chat function. Okay, and if you want to ask a question, please use the following format. Type the agency that you are directing the question to first, followed by the question. Example, GovTech, may I know where's your office? Okay, please be courteous and considerate to the speakers and all the attendees who's here with us in the webinar. If you want to drop your CV or LinkedIn profile, or join the Slack channel to speak to all our tech leaders and recruiters from the various agencies, you can join by scanning the QR code here. Okay, so without further ado, I will first start with the first speaker, who is Ronald Khan. He's from GovTech, and he'll be sharing with you about GovTech's journey to the cloud. Over to you, Ronald.
Hi, can you hear? Okay, so hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. Sorry, I think the slide is a little messed up. Give me 1 second while I fix the slides. Okay, hi, my name is Ronald. I'm from GovTech, Government Digital Services. So just a quick introduction about where I'm from. So I'm from the Government Digital Services, a team of problem solvers that create products and services for our fellow Singaporeans. So if you would like to find out more about us and what we've created, visit the link on the slides and you'll be able to find out more. So on to our topic. So our journey to clouds. So for the deep dive session, I'll explain how as an organization have we evolved over the years and prepare ourselves for the future. So all right, starting from the very beginning. As we all know that data in the government is really important. We cannot take a single risk in allowing our data to be exposed to unauthorized users. As such, in the past, government systems and services are mostly hosted on-premise, where we protect, secure, and have control over our infrastructure. So by hosting on-premise, obviously there are some benefits and advantages that we can actually obtain. And in this particular slide, you can see that the important points are actually data locality, which is a data localization, as well as the security. Well, obviously, these are good things about hosting on-premise, but obviously there are some downsides. So, however, with these downsides, as the world progresses, it's really hard to avoid all these issues, especially true when we want to cater our services to the masses and allow more Singaporeans to benefit from what we have created. So issues like scalability and longer time to market is really hard to avoid. And because of that, I mean, we start to think, how can we actually build digital services faster and deliver it in a more effective manner? As you have guessed, not all systems and services are the same, which means that we should be adaptive in solutioning our products to reach our end goals and not just rely on an existing solution that it works. We have to evolve as technology progresses. And as such, we created something called the Singapore Government Tech Stack. So what exactly is this? So the Singapore Government Tech Stack was created with a single purpose in mind. We want to enable government agencies to build their services quicker and in a more effective manner. The Singapore Government Tech Stack is a common infrastructure and platform of reusable components where it aims to streamline and simplifies development processes in solutioning our products. And of course, we want to reimagine how can we create components to enhance developer experience. So now that you think, hey, Ronald, this is a cloud and infrastructure talk. So why are we talking about this? This is one of the key things. As part of the Singapore Government Tech Stack, we created something called a Singapore Government Cloud. The Singapore Commercial Cloud was born because of one simple reason. Obviously, cloud service providers out there have services and they are super beneficial when we want to push products to our end user. And as such, the Government Commercial Cloud is pretty much a secure and protected commercial cloud where government systems and services can leverage on. So with this, government agencies will be able to leverage on the capabilities of the cloud providers while building and delivering their products. So this is the entire landscape of the Singapore Government Tech Stack. So there are 3 key stages. So let us focus on the first stage first, where it is the very beginning, which is labeled yesterday. So that's where most services are independent, deployed in their own environment, and this actually costs a lot of time and effort to build and maintain every single software that's built from ground up, and that is not very good. So now let's look at stage 2, the stage that we are in right now. So in stage 2, we leverage on the Government Commercial Cloud. So we aim to migrate 70% of the existing services to the cloud. As part of this migration efforts, services are migrated with various strategies. So starting from the first one, rehosting. So if they want to perform a lift and shift because of some limitations from their applications, yes, they can leverage on lift and shift. And secondly, re-platform. So if they can reduce some of their operational overheads, or even better, lastly, if they can leverage on something called like the re-architect to leverage on cloud native services to deliver their products, it will be even better. 3 key strategies. But last but not least, this is just the stage that we are in, but that's not the future that we envision. The future that we envision is in stage 3. This is where the Singapore Government Tech Stack components comes into the picture. And with that in mind, government agencies will be then able to build less and deliver more. So now you must be wondering, hey, this Singapore Government Tech Stack thing is actually quite interesting. So what exactly is within this thing? So the Singapore Government Tech Stack comprises of 3 different layers. So in the first layer is basically the service layer. The service layer is pretty much a set of reusable components where applications can actually leverage on. And on the base layer is split up into multiple categories. So there are 4 main categories there, but it is mainly used to complement application delivery as well as development. And lastly, in the third layer is pretty much the base layer where the hosting component sits, which is something like the Government Commercial Cloud. So for this session, this is if you look at the full component list, so what you're seeing here is actually the full component list. Obviously, by basing off the names, it's really hard to tell what exactly are they. However, if you're curious to find out more, you can take a screenshot of this slide and head over to developers.dec.gov.sg to find out more about every of the component. But for this session, let's look at the high-level overview of what are some of the components that we are building. So as you can see, we have some UI components that application developers can leverage on, and these are built with popular front-end frameworks, something like React, Vue.js, AngularJS. Or if you think about single sign-on, where your applications can sign in like Kodpass or SyncPass. And of course, if you're thinking about hosting your applications in the cloud, you can leverage on something like a container hosting platform that was built on top of Kubernetes. And of course, we have some central CI/CD logging and monitoring system that projects can actually leverage on, so that as an application developer, a project owner, or a system delivery manager, you don't have to worry about building all of your custom CI/CD pipeline logging monitoring systems. All you have to do is leverage on the Singapore Government Tech Stack and focus on building and delivering your application. So as you can see, the domains and expertise that's required to build the components of the Singapore Tech Stack varies and ranges from a very wide skill set. It ranges from application developers to cloud or DevOps engineer, and even security and designers. So it's really hard for me to tell you what are we looking out for? But we need more engineers. And this is the things that we are building as of today for our future. And with that, it comes to the last slide. And thank you very much for attending.
Thanks, Ronald. All right, we will be having Ruben Wong from IMDA next. He'll be sharing with us the work that they do in IMDA itself. Over to you, Ruben.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Ruben. Thank you for having me. Before we start, just want to thank everyone for taking the time to be here. I'm from the Infocomm Media Development Authority of Singapore. I've been here for 9 years. I know we don't have much time, so I'll try and keep this short. I'm here to share with you some of the work that we do and hopefully give you a deeper insight into the public sector. So let me try and get this to the next slide. Give me a moment. Sorry for the hiccup. Okay, yes. Here we go. So IMDA was formed in October 2016. We are part of a family, a Ministry of Communications and Information. And broadly speaking, we develop and regulate the Infocomm media sector. And we take on 4 main roles. Firstly, we champion digitalization across all the industries, and we work with a lot of agencies for this. And secondly, we also grow the industry and build up our own ICT and media companies. And thirdly, we take a master planner role for connectivity and infra. I'll talk more about that in a moment. And finally, as a regulator, we issue licenses for telcos and broadcasters. But before diving in, let me share some context. As you're well aware of the situation today, COVID-19 has impacted us dramatically. A lot of our efforts in digitalization has thus been significantly accelerated. The number of people on the streets at events are now the same people working at home and attending events like this. Social interactions have become virtual, and you're probably buying a lot of food delivery and a lot of things online. And besides that, businesses that are affected are also looking at ways to enter the digital space to survive. In short, the work is accelerated and is getting increasingly important to see how we can support the growth of digital services in Singapore. And so here's where the role of IMDA becomes important. We behave a bit like the digital architect for Singapore. If you think of an architect designs and develops a physical building. At IMDA, we design and architect Singapore's digital metropolis. And we do this in 3 ways. We look at supporting our digital economy. We make sure that we have an inclusive digital society. And we also ensure we have the right digital infrastructure to support that. So this is the work that I do daily and enjoy doing. I know the area is very broad, and infrastructure work is typically hidden and not very visible. It takes a long time to implement, and the results usually are visible only way down the road, many years from the time you start. And people may not realize it, but when infrastructure fails, the impact is very, very huge. In some countries, when COVID-19 hit, services became disrupted because of the huge sudden surge of demand. Thankfully, in Singapore, that didn't happen, and we try to make sure that that doesn't happen at all. So we look at things like data centers, cloud infrastructure, to ensure there's a sufficient space and capacity to support our digital needs. And in areas of connectivity, we make sure that there's fiber broadband for everybody, for residential users, for commercial sectors. And for mobile coverage, we make sure that we have 4G, and I'll talk a bit about 5G as well later, as well as having free Wi-Fi for citizens. The ease of access is also important, ensuring that the buildings are pre-wired quickly so that the company that comes in can quickly get the fiber services that they need. And beyond this hard physical infrastructure, there's also developmental work. We also think about questions like, is the industry competitive? Can their needs be met? Is the ecosystem vibrant? Is it progressing? So these are just some examples of the things we do and think about. But to give you a deeper insight into what we do, what goes on behind the scenes, let me share with you a project that I was a part of and very close to my heart, the Next Gen NBN, or simply the project to provide fiber connectivity to the entire nation. And today, that project is a success. Let me try and go back. Today, the project is a success, but at the time, there were many, many challenges. This started way back in 2005, when we looked at broadband and we knew that there was a demand in bandwidth. Companies like Japan, Korea were moving towards fiber broadband, but our local industry players were not moving. Incumbents were still monetizing their copper networks, and there was a view that copper can still somehow deliver our future needs. As a government, we thought differently. We felt that if left on its own, the private sector will just continue not to invest in fiber. And if we were to do that, what would happen is that Singapore would lose out and play catch up with other economies. And by the time we do that, we will fall behind. The thinking then was that we cannot afford to do that. Besides, it takes a long time to complete infrastructure. So we needed to plan to do this early and plan ahead of demand, build something that we believe can leapfrog the nation in terms of connectivity. And so having that mindset, we needed to carefully consider the approach and the technical aspects. We needed to make sure that the network was flexible and can meet future changing needs. Technical aspects are things like what is the split ratio, where do we deploy the fiber points, what technology to use, and so forth. To give you a flavor of that, when the fiber project came up, the first plans that were provided were 50 Mbps of broadband plans. But today, you can get the same broadband plan, you can get a higher broadband plan of 1 gigabit per second or even 10 gigabit per second. So mind you, that is a 100% increase supported by the same infrastructure. So this was the level of flexibility that we planned for many years ago. And the network had to be resilient as well. During the pandemic, video streaming services in some countries were scaled down. If I'm not mistaken, from HD to SD resolution. Thankfully, our fiber network and initial investments that we put in place help us tide over this, and services were not impacted. You could still watch your videos in HD. So that was the technical aspect of the planning. But there's also the industry structure aspect. At the time, we knew that the industry was largely dominated by incumbents, a handful of them, and we wanted an industry that is competitive and vibrant, to have more people in the market. This will help benefit consumers and drive down costs as well. So we did a lot of studies. We knew we wanted an open access environment. But this meant that we needed to take a very bold step to restructure the entire industry norm. We knew what we needed to do. It was very difficult, to be very frank. The industry players were against it. Internally, it was challenging to convince our stakeholders. But you know what? We did the numbers. We ran the scenarios. We did it many, many times. And we firmly believed that this was the right thing to do for Singapore. So we pressed on. And if you fast forward to what's happening today, after years of planning, digging up the roads, contract management, solving a lot of problems, good problems like oversubscription, we finally made our network fully pervasive to cover the whole nation. And we did it quite quickly as well. Other countries might have taken a longer time, but we did it in about 2 or 3 years. We have more than 1.3 million subscribers, and that's huge growth since it came online. To put that in comparison, we have about 1.1 or 1.2 million households in Singapore. So almost every household has a fiber broadband connection in their homes. And the way we structured the industry also enabled us to have the most competitive fiber service globally. Remember I mentioned we have a handful of telcos in the beginning, three or four players. Today we have more than 30 retail service providers. That's a huge, big jump compared to the incumbent number that we had in the beginning. And the best part is that because of this competition, because of this open environment that we've put in place, because of the sheer number of people participating and trying to compete with each other, prices have dropped significantly. Now, in the past, if you were looking at a 100 Mbps broadband plan on copper, you'll be paying 50 to 75 USD per month. But today, you will be paying 21 USD for 500 Mbps. So you're paying almost half or 1/3 the cost, but you get 5 times the speed. So in terms of quality, our fiber also is very robust and strong. It continues to be the top in the world for download speeds and upload speeds today. Before this presentation, I went online to check on speedtest.net, and they have this global index. It's public info, so go check it out. Our average speeds today are 220 Mbps for download and upload speeds, and that's actually quite fast, honestly. So we can see the benefits of the major interventions that we had. Again, I want to emphasize that the problem was very huge. Frankly speaking, it could have easily stopped in its tracks very early, but we decided that this was right for Singapore, and so we pursued, and we can see the benefits taking shape today. Now, what I've shared with you is just one of the many components of the various infrastructure work that we do. And all this is to support our efforts to drive Singapore's digital economy efforts. So like the image here is like a house. And infrastructure is actually the bottom rectangle there, physical and digital infrastructure. And it's like the foundational element, and it is. So today, we are still continually thinking about infrastructure and looking at different areas to develop and work at. For example, in the area of 5G, companies today are actually faced with some challenges. Some lack manpower for safe ops, especially in risky environments. Some are trying to try and look for new opportunities and leverage on new technologies. 5G technology could open up some of these opportunities for businesses. For example, the ability to perform remote operations from a centralized site could potentially reduce risk, especially in a dangerous environment. We are doing some trials on this. Another example is drones. It's been discussed for a long time, and one of the problems is the ability to ensure that the communication with the drone remains reliable. That is a key challenge. But with 5G, this is an area where 5G could provide an additional layer of assurance and possibly enable some of these new drone applications. So further down the road, as technology matures, there's going to be a lot of things that 5G can enable. Example, vehicle platooning and whatnot. And that's only one aspect of infrastructure enabling everything. So I've come to the last slide of my presentation, and I leave you with my personal thoughts. My background actually is in physics. I did physics in my degree and my master's, and I enjoy problem solving. The work that we do is indeed challenging but satisfying, because here I'm solving nationalistic problems that directly impact people and businesses. And today I can see how it has changed the country. So I leave you with a quote from Molière: "The greater the obstacle, the more glory in overcoming it." I hope our viewers today enjoy my sharing and have a deeper insight into what we do. Thank you, organizers, for the opportunity, and thank you for listening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ruben. And another interesting fact is that Ruben used to be a competitive gamer 15 years ago. Interesting background. All right, so next up we have Ong Hui Yong, who is the Director of Cloud Infra and Services from CSIT. So he will be sharing with us also on what they do in his agency. Over to you, Hui Yong.
Hi. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, depending on where you are now. So my name is Hui Yong. I run the Cloud Infrastructure and Services group in CSIT. I've been with CSIT for the past 17 years. So today, I'll share with you briefly who we are, what we do, and the exciting opportunities we offer in Singapore for you to use your tech expertise to contribute to Singapore national security. And if you are interested to find out more, you can contact us via the email, which I will share at the end of this presentation, or we can talk over it at the Slack channel. Yeah, so let me get into it. Okay. So sorry, just wait for the slides to come up. Sorry for the glitches. Okay. So who we are? Okay, so CSIT stands for Center for Strategic Infocom Technology. We are agency under MINDEF, established in 2003. So CSIT conducts applied research and we build digital products to support Singapore national security needs. So in CSIT, we are recognized for our deep infocom expertise in infocom technologies, and we are a leading cyber security agency in the public sector as well as in local tech industry. And so in CSIT, we broadly group our technical expertise in 4 domains, which you can see on the slides, namely cybersecurity, software engineering, data analytics, and cloud infrastructure and services, which is where I come from. So I'll next share with you a little bit more on the cloud infrastructure and services. So this is a very high level overview of what we do in the cloud and services domain. So our job covers a wide span of technology, ranging from digital workspace to platform as a service, to cloud computing, which is essentially infra as a service, to smart data centers. Okay, so what do we do in each of this? So in digital workspace, this is a space where you'll find your familiar endpoints like notebooks, laptops, virtual desktop infrastructures, as well as your mobile phones, and also the corresponding management tools like your MDM, UEM. It also includes the communication and collaboration suite of software like your email, your collaboration software like Skype, SharePoint, Confluence, etc., etc. And recently, we also onboarded ourselves onto Microsoft Teams and Office 365 to enable ourselves to be able to work from home. So that's also covered under the digital workspace. And the next, I'll talk about platform as a service. So platform as a service, this is a new space where we venture into in the last 2 to 3 years. This is also a space where we call it the space where the software engineer meets the infra engineer, or other place that we get software engineer to do infra work. Yeah. So here we cover things like your containers and Kubernetes platforms, the database platform, the object stores. We also provide DevOps platform for the developers to build and deploy their digital products. And these are things like your Jenkins, Artifactory, your GitLab, that enable the entire CI/CD pipelines. On top of that, we also have a big data platform, such as our Hadoop and our massive parallel processing platforms. So lately, we're also starting to experiment with some of the AI ML platform like Jupyter Hub, MLflow, Kubeflow, if you're familiar with some of this. But I must quantify this just a small scale deployment, and we are still experimenting it. So then the lower layer, the cloud computing, which is what I refer to as infra as a service. This is the area where all your virtual machines, virtual storage, virtual networkings are. And in terms of hardware-wise, increasingly, we're also deploying hyper-converged infrastructure to simplify the manageability of hardware and all the networking equipment as well. So last but not least, we also build and run our own data centers. Yeah, so this is what we do. And with this whole stack of technology, we powered the R&D engineering operations in CSIT. And you can see that through this whole stack of technology, we actually provide you a full range of experience to build and operate a private on-prem cloud in CSIT. So I'll next talk a little bit about what we offer and what we can offer you in CSIT. So I think the first thing is the meaning of the job. So I believe when we join an organization, all of us wanted a meaningful career. And I think if national security resonates with you, I think CSIT provide you unparalleled opportunities to use our technical skills to contribute to our national security. So we particularly focus on 2 mission critical areas like cybersecurity and counterterrorism. So this is where we contribute to defending national level IT system and networks, as well as contribute to defend against a terrorist attack against Singapore. So if you really think this is what you want to do, come talk to us. And secondly, in CSIT, we provide you all-rounded career development. So we provide personal and professional training to ease you into the defense or the national security domain, and also to keep you relevant in the fast-moving tech industry. And we provide a space and opportunity for people to develop their ideas. We encourage ground-up initiatives through initiatives like hackathons. And we also have a wide range of job opportunities ranging from software engineering, data analytics, cybersecurity, and cloud infrastructure and services. And we actually encourage people to do job rotation. So in CSIT, it is actually quite common to see people move from one domain to another. For example, I myself was a software developer, and then I moved to the infrastructure side, and then now I'm doing cloud infrastructure and services. Lastly, in CSIT, we provide dual career path. So we have this management track as well as specialist track. So if someone's think he likes to manage people, he can pursue a management track. And if someone wants to go deep in his technical domain, he can stay in a specialist track and then deepen his technical skills. Last but not least, let me just talk briefly about community and culture. So in CSIT, our community is generally a young and vibrant and fun-seeking one. That culture is a caring and learning one. We have a large pool of technical experts we can learn and grow together. And we encourage ground-up initiatives through hackathons like I mentioned before, so that engineers can bring their ideas to fruition in our operating environment. We also provide a lot of learning opportunities, like the personal and professional development that I talked about. On top of that, we also sponsor postgraduate studies. Yeah, so if you are interested, you can contact us at the email. So you can reach our HR and myself through this email, or you can also talk to us at the Slack channel. Yeah, so this is my last slide. Yeah, Jillian, back to you.
Thanks, Riyong.
Thank you.
Hi. So everyone, please remember to type your Q&A questions in the chat box. Later we will have a live session after we finish the SIoT portion. Okay, so next up we will have Teo Si Yan. She's a software engineer with GovTech. She will be sharing with you about how GovTech is helping with the Smart Nation initiatives in terms of sensors and IoT. Over to you, Teo Si Yan.
Hello. Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for being here and for staying all the way until the end of this session. So I'm Si Yan from GovTech's Sensors and IoT team, or SIoT. As Jillian mentioned, I'm a software engineer. So currently I'm mostly doing front-end web development, but sometimes if needed, I'll also do back-end. Yeah. Today I'll be sharing briefly about my department and how we're building a smart nation with sensors and IoT. So to start off with the why of or the purpose and vision behind our team. You can see in this photo, it's actually an article featuring my team's director, Yang Boon, who used to work as an engineer in Apple in Silicon Valley, until a few years ago where he heard a talk by PM Lee sharing about Singapore's Smart Nation vision. And this actually inspired him to come back to Singapore and lead this team in developing IoT capabilities and solutions for Singapore's government. So, okay, I'll pause it for a while for you to read this quote from him. Yeah, so of course, for GovTech, right, the aim is to use technology to benefit Singaporeans. And something unique about my team within GovTech is that we develop not just software, but also hardware. So including physical devices that interact with the physical environment through sensing and actuating. So we feel that this can make additional impact other than just through software and apps. So specifically how we do this is through these three main points. Firstly, we try to develop a broad range of capabilities within the team. So this includes electronics, such as designing circuit boards, to embedded software development, to AI computer vision, because cameras are kind of considered a sensor, as well as cloud and software development. With this, we work together with various government agencies to identify opportunities where IoT can make a difference. So this could be through helping the agency's internal operations or the agency's citizen-facing initiatives. So anywhere where IoT can make a difference, then we will try to work with the agencies to trial and implement this. Lastly, we work in an agile way, even for hardware development. So we quickly prototype stuff, we do a lot of proof of concepts and trials, then to see what can be improved and iterate and keep improving on our solutions from there. So this is our IoT tech stack, which describes like specifically the tech side of how we implement IoT in our team. So the top one, you can see Dicada Cloud. This is our cloud IoT platform that provides support for device management, data acquisition and storage, as well as data analytics for IoT devices and real-time sensor data. So this is kind of similar to cloud, some of the cloud providers which have IoT services or platforms. Similarly, you can think of Dicada as the government's IoT platform. Next, we have Dicada Edge, which is a gateway or edge software that is used to communicate with Dicada Cloud. So this is something we built in-house, which can run on different hardware and connect other not so smart devices through the gateway to the cloud. The gateway is also configurable to run different kinds of edge analytics depending on what is the use case. Lastly, at the bottom, we see Manuka, which is a family of embedded hardware and software that we also develop fully in-house. And this also allows connecting of other different devices such as sensors to the Dicada Cloud. So this is another view of like these three core products which we maintain. You can see it overlaid on the IoT reference model. So these describe the layers that each part of the tech stack deals with. So Manuka has physical devices and controllers, whereas Dicada Edge deals with connectivity and edge computing. And Dicada Cloud side is more on the data side. So data ingestion, device management, as well as analysis and tooling. So we maintain these three core components of our tech stack, and we often build customized applications on top of it to suit the specific use case. So these applications could also involve such as web apps for monitoring or viewing of data, or also mobile apps for, say, controlling devices. So now we have done the why and how. The next is what. So I'll be sharing a bit about some of the projects that we have been working on. The first is this smart lamppost idea or project, which the aim is to basically make better use of lampposts. And we do this by connecting the Manuka board, which you can see on the top right, to the lamppost itself. So this can control the lamppost as well as connect different other sensors to it to sense the environment. So these sensors not only provide like data for analysis, but also can directly be used to control the lamppost. So for example, on the two pictures on the left, this is actually a trial we did with Active SG, because they realized that people like to exercise at like all sorts of times, such as like late at night or early in the morning. And of course, they don't want to turn on the floodlights in the stadium just for these few people, because that would be like a bit overkill. So they use these smart lampposts to turn on and off the lights based on ambient lighting as well as motion sensing. So in this way, we get cost savings by energy savings. Yeah. And the bottom right, you can see this is a dashboard for our trial with Singapore Botanic Gardens. Okay. The next project is one that I've been personally working on, which is this personal alert button for seniors. So this project is targeted at the elderly, especially those who live in rental flats, because they might not be so tech savvy, and in case of any emergencies, they may not be able to call for help, or they might not have people to like relatives or people that they can call for help. So we work with HDB to install this button, which we developed. You can see the photo over there. So we install it in a bunch of units in rental flats. And the idea is that if there's any kind of medical emergency or social emergency, the senior can just press the button and it will be connected to our telecare operator, which is a company that we work with. And the telecare operator will be able to get more details and send whatever help is needed to the senior, such as like ambulance. So you can see on the right, this is our monitoring and device management dashboard. So currently we have 7,000 plus buttons installed in about 23, this is for 23 HDB rental blocks currently. And we'll be expanding to more blocks next year with an improved button design. So one thing good about this is that for the buttons, right, we can monitor their status. So if they have low battery or anything is not working as expected, we will be able to know beforehand, and we can preemptively send the installers to go and replace or fix the buttons at the units. Yeah, so this personally, I think is a very meaningful project because it allows like less tech savvy seniors to be able to get help as needed. And this is only possible through a physical device that we install for them. Yeah. So the next project is the Trace Together token. So for those of you who don't know, the Trace Together is Singapore's national contact tracing program for COVID. So we've been working really intensely on this project since this year, around May. Yeah, so the Trace Together token works similarly to the Trace Together app, which both broadcast and scan Bluetooth signals, and in order to record like close contacts of people. So the token was developed because we know that not everyone is very well versed in using a smartphone, and especially for those who are like the elderly, it will be easier for them to just have a token that they just carry around and don't need to do anything or don't need to worry about it. Yeah, so my team, other than developing and testing the token itself, we also built a lot of software that is needed for this whole system, including like distribution and retrieving the data. So we built an app that connects to the token through Bluetooth to retrieve the data in the case that the token owner actually has COVID. Then this will allow like the decryption of the data in the token, and this data is then passed on to MOH to determine who are the close contacts to quarantine. So on the right, you can also see our distribution statistics dashboard. It's a bit outdated now, but yeah, this is another thing we built so that for ourselves and the policymakers as well as the CCs who are doing the distribution, we can monitor what is the distribution quantities like at each location over time. Okay, so this is a photo of my team. We are a fun, dynamic, and growing team with people doing all sorts of roles, some of which are listed in the slide. So if you think what we're doing is interesting, feel free to read more on our website. And if you're interested to join us, you can drop your CV in the form on the link tree. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. So we have now come to the live Q&A session. So if you have any questions that you want to reach out to any of the speakers, feel free to type it in the chat box, Q&A box now. So currently we have a question for Ronald. So for GovTech, if I'm an engineer, how would you suggest which team to join? What skills and experience are required to work on government cloud infra? Ronald, would you like to take this?
Okay, so there's two questions, right? Okay, so I'll answer the first one first. So the first question was the career progression like in GovTech and the opportunities to rotate across teams and employees encouraged to build expertise in one particular area. So I think with this question, I think using me as an example would be like relevant because okay, I've been here for 3 years. So in the past 3 years, I started off as a software engineer. So I started off as a software engineer in a platform as a service product. And in that product, I was pretty much a full stack engineer creating the portal itself. So I'm pretty much writing like AngularJS, Node.js, and talking to a database like Postgres. So from then on, I've moved on. So I moved on to something more like a DevOps role that manages Kubernetes and OpenShift. So I mean, this actually depicts like the opportunities that GovTech actually gives. So when you first join, obviously you are joining a specific team based on the JD that you applied for, based on the job role that you applied for. But over time, as you progress, as you learn, as you grow, GovTech actually gives a lot of opportunity for you to learn and a lot of opportunity for you to expand your skill sets. And once you feel that you are comfortable in venturing outside of your previous domain. So for example, I started off as a software engineer and I eventually ventured into DevOps. So once you are comfortable and you are capable, as long as you speak to your higher ups or to someone that's in charge of you, that hey, I'm interested in helping out in this project. Am I able to do that? Chances are your reporting officer or your higher up will be more than happy for you to contribute to another project. And of course, in GovTech and particularly in government digital services, the team that I'm in, we have a lot of projects that are coming up over time, like over the years, over the months, there will be projects coming up. And when new projects comes up, the opportunities are usually given to your existing engineers. So because your existing engineers knows the environment the best. You know about how do you navigate, how do you work, especially we adopt the agile methodology and we are very comfortable with doing so. So when you hire someone new, obviously it's, time to adapt. So the answer would be yes. We encourage people to rotate across teams and to expand your skill sets outside of your additional initial domains. And to the second questions, as an engineer, how will you suggest which team to join and what skill sets and experience are required to work on government cloud infrastructure projects? I think there's no fixed answer to this. Obviously, skills and experience is really based on the project. So if you remember the slide that I had, there are many components that we are building. So if let's say you're applying for a platform as a service project, obviously your skill sets will revolve around probably containerization, probably around networking, probably around, for example, setting up an entire VPC and all those stuff like that. But let's say if you are going into a project that pretty much is a client-facing, let's say a standard billing portal, right? And that's where you will go in as a cloud infra engineer that is more experienced in perhaps serverless or perhaps using Elastic Beanstalk. So it really depends on the project that you're applying for. And to be fair, we don't really have a fixed cloud stack that we use across projects. It's really depending on the specific project owner and what kind of stack they want to leverage on. And of course, based on the application or the service that they're trying to push out to the end users. Yep, and that's it for the 2 questions. Back to you, Gillian. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ronald. So next we will have a question for Ruben from INDA. X Wiley is asking, one second please. What is the IMDA's team focus going forward and what is the challenges for 2021?
Yeah, hi, hello. Okay. So I'll try to answer this as succinctly as I can. It's actually a quite loaded question. Okay, firstly, broadly, what are we doing moving forward? I think the things that we were doing before COVID still apply. As an organization, we will continue to architect the 3 areas, digital economy, digital transformation across the industry, and the inclusive digital society. And one area is value creation. We want to use technology as an engine. Maybe the best analogy is, example, using 5G as a technology and IoT as the for the business to use in terms of applications. So that is the work that is already business as usual anyway. Now, the only thing that has changed is COVID-19, and that has actually done 2 things for IMDA. It has severely accelerated the need to do these things, because the demand for digital services have increased so much. Today we're all on Zoom. Previously in the past, you would have never expected that would be the case. And we have how many? We have 37 attendees, right? All this take bandwidth and capacity. And that means that actually the underlying things supporting and enabling these things will need to be beefed up and robust. So because of that, everything that we're doing at IMDA, be it in increasing the capabilities of our workforce, be it in infrastructure, be it in digitalizing the different sectors, example, helping companies adopt technology and transform and remain relevant, has only been hastened and quickened because of the pandemic. So that's one aspect of the challenges that we face. And having said that, we also don't know, to be very frank, I don't think we can ever say we know what the future holds given the pandemic. So we need to be ready. And that's something that's always been mentioned to us internally, and the bosses also say this, that we need to be quick to adapt when the time comes and be sensitive to what's happening around us. We don't know how long COVID will last. We don't know how long things will be back to normal. But while we do that, we can just make sure that we plan for it lah. So for example, for now, from the infrastructure perspective, we know that there's going to be growing demand. So what do? We ensure that the infrastructure remains robust. Okay, just now I talked about the fiber network. Yes, we planned for it back then, 2005. The question then we ask now is, in the next 10 years or 15 years, will our infrastructure be able to be ready and support the future need? And that could mean actually reviewing some of the things that we do and looking internally to see, okay, are there things and areas where we can take steps in to further beef up and plan for such contingencies in the future? So that's one area that we are looking at least for the infrastructure team that I'm in. That's one area. The other area is the fact that boundaries are changing. The way we defined things in the past have changed so much. In the past, we think of infrastructure as your fiber, copper, things underground, right? But now, because of digitalization, some of the infrastructure is in the cloud. Some of them are blurred, it can be subsea connectivity or data centers, things that were never on our minds before. So internally, we realize this, we are trying to revisit this and think about what infrastructure means to Singapore. And we also need to be sensitive to what's happening in the world. So I think those are the challenges that I've laid before you. And these are things that we're thinking about and trying to make sure that we can make sure that our economy continues to grow in view of these changes. So that's the answer. I hope that helps answer the question to you. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Ruben. I saw that we actually have a question about what is your favorite and least favorite part of your job. Since there's no person, not directed to any agency, Hu Yong, would you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. Hi, there are many favorite part of this job, but I think summing up, it's about solving problems. So like, for example, when we create a platform for as a service, it really helps developer to accelerate their product delivery. And that's part of like solving a very critical problem to meet our organization needs. And I think my team and I likes that part of our job to solve real problem. So that's the most favorite part of the job. The least favorite, as you know, we are in this cloud infra, which is infrastructure in nature, and it's highly operational. So the least favorite part is the firefighting part. Things happens, so it may not be major, but from time to time you have to put down everything and go fight the fire when something breaks or something is not working or things are slow. So that's the part that is not so enjoyable because you'll be under a lot of pressure to put things back to normal. Yeah, so I hope that answered the questions. Yeah.
Thanks, Hui Yong. All right, so we have our last question, which is directed to GovTech Yan. How did you decide to work on sensors and IoT as a software engineer?
Okay, thanks for the question. So I'll be honest, actually I didn't specifically apply for sensors and IoT when I joined, but because I joined as a fresh grad after uni, right? So I applied under the Tech Associate program, which is a graduate program. So I was interested in software engineering, but I indicated interest in different areas for different departments. And I spoke to the director for sensors and IoT. So at that time, our software, there was not that much of a software group within the sensors and IoT team. So he convinced me that although IoT sensors, I thought it's a lot of hardware, and I wasn't sure what was the role for a software engineer. But I realized at the time he convinced me, and also after working here for a while, I realized that actually there's a lot of software needed for IoT systems as well. So yeah, I'm still glad that I ended up in Sensors and IoT doing software. Yeah.
Okay, that was very interesting. So anybody who has similar interests may reach out to us for Sensors and IoT. So that's the end of our live Q&A session and also our Cloud and Infra session. Thank you very much for staying with us so late or so early or wherever you are. Those of you who are interested to speak to us further, you can join the Slack channel as well as drop your CV or your LinkedIn profile. Please scan this QR code now. Also, there will be a feedback form as well, and we hope to hear from you. If that's all for today, and hope to see you in the other tech forum sessions as well. Good night and good morning. Bye.